The sound of gravel crunching beneath your tires filled the silence of the deserted road. You held your phone tightly against your ear, your voice sharp and filled with irritation. No, Mr. Choi, I'm not overreacting. You snapped, pressing harder on the accelerator as if the car would absorb your anger. Your precious clients humiliated our entire team, and you expect me to smile and say thank you? Static crackled on the other end before your boss's calm voice replied, "Fine, you need to learn to control your temper. They are investors." Investors or not, there's a line. You interrupted, your hands tightening on the steering wheel. I don't care how much money they have. If they think shouting at my juniors earns them respect, they are wrong. I'm not putting up with that again. Your boss sighed, the kind of exasperated sound you had heard too many times before. You have changed a lot, you know that. He muttered quietly, you almost laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, people change, sir, especially when life teaches them the hard way. The call ended with an awkward click. You threw your phone onto the passenger seat and exhaled deeply, rubbing your temple. The night stretched around you, inky black and eerily still. Only the distant chirping of crickets filled the emptiness. The road ahead was endless, cutting through the middle of nowhere, lit only by your headlights. You checked the dashboard, half a tank. You would be home in an hour, maybe you would take a hot shower, crawl into bed and try to forget this awful day, but fate, as usual, had other plans. Your car gave a loud cough, then another, and before you could even react, it shuddered violently and came to a complete stop. You have got to be kidding me. You muttered, turning the key again. The engine groaned but didn't start. You tried again, nothing. Perfect, just perfect. You got out of the car, the cool night air brushing against your skin. The road was empty, no headlights, no movement, no sound except the rustling wind through dry grass. You opened the hood pretending you knew what you were doing, but really, you didn't. Okay, maybe the battery. You murmured to yourself, frowning at the maze of wires. Or maybe the engine's just tired, like me. You grabbed your phone again, trying to call roadside assistance, but the screen flashed no service. Of course, you muttered bitterly, kicking at a small rock, because why would anything work tonight? You leaned against the car, staring at the starless sky. It wasn't fear that grabbed up first, it was frustration. But as the minutes passed and the silence grew heavier, unease began to curl in your stomach. The air felt strange, cold, too still. You rubbed your arms, glancing around. The wind carried the faint smell of rain and dust. Somewhere in the distance, you thought you heard a motor, but it was gone as quickly as it came. Hello? You called out, your voice echoing slightly. No reply. You tried to laugh it off. Great Vine. You're talking to the wind now. You checked your phone again, still no signal. You thought about waiting in the car, but the eerie silence made you uneasy. Every crack and rustle sounded louder, then a distant rumble. At first you thought it was thunder, but the sound grew sharper, deeper. A motorcycle engine. Your heart skipped. You turned toward the sound, squinting down the road. Two small beams of lights appeared, growing brighter and louder. You instinctively stepped back, unsure if you should feel relieved or cautious. Midnight on a deserted road wasn't exactly the safest time to trust strangers. The bike slowed down, the rider's silhouette sharp against the headlights. Leather jacket, dark helmet. The powerful engine came to a stop just a few meters from you. The rider turned off the ignition, the silence swallowing the road again, except for the faint ticking sound of cooling metal. He removed his helmet slowly, shaking out slightly tousled hair. The moment his face came into view, your heart froze. That familiar jawline, those deep, unreadable eyes, the small scar above his eyebrow. You forgot to breathe. You? Your voice barely came out, soft and stunned. He looked at you for a long moment, expression unreadable, the corners of his lips tightening slightly. You haven't changed, he finally said, his voice low, deep, rougher than you remembered, still wandering into trouble like always. You blinked rapidly, still frozen where you stood. Jungkook? You whispered his name like it was something forbidden. He took a slow step forward, eyes scanning your car, then you. Engine died. You managed a weak nod. I think so. It just stopped. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair, looking both annoyed and concerned. You shouldn't be out here alone. The road is not safe at night. You crossed your arms defensively, your voice rising a little. Well, I didn't plan for my car to break down in the middle of nowhere. He glanced at you again, his gaze softening for a second before he crouched near your car's hood. You still have that habit, he said quietly. What habit? You frowned, talking fast when you are nervous. You froze again, he still remembered. After all these years, you didn't respond, instead watching as he checked under the hood with practiced ease. His fingers were covered with grease within seconds, his expression focused. You had forgotten how effortlessly capable he looked doing the simplest things. Battery is fine, he said after a minute. Looks like the fuel pump is gone bad. So? He looked up at you, standing tall again. So? It's not going anywhere tonight. You groaned, rubbing your forehead. Perfect. Just what I needed after the worst day ever. He tilted his head slightly, his tone teasing, though there was a hint of sadness behind it. Still short-tempered, huh? You shot him a look, still cocky, huh? A small smirk appeared on his lips, faint but real. For a second it felt like no time had passed at all, but then the weight of reality hit again. You looked away. Thanks for stopping, you murmured. You didn't have to. Couldn't just leave you here, not when I saw it was you. Your throat tightened. There was 1,000 things you wanted to say, apologies, questions, things left unsaid years ago, but your voice refused to form them. Instead you muttered, it's fine, I'll just wait for a tow truck. It will come eventually. He shook his head. There's no signal here. You'll be waiting till morning. Then what do you suggest? He turned toward his bike and looked back at you. Get your bag. I'll drop you off. You stare at him. I'm not getting on that thing again. He gave you a knowing smirk. Still scared of my bike? No, just of the person driving it. You shot back. He paused. The teasing vanished from his eyes. For a brief moment, the silence between you two felt heavy again, laden with memories neither of you were ready to touch. He finally said quietly, get on, Ryan. It's not safe here. He understood your hesitation. Don't worry about the car. I'll call someone. They'll get it. You frowned. What do you mean they'll get it? He stepped closer, his tone calm but firm. Don't worry. Your car will be at your doorstep before noon. Your heart skipped a beat. It didn't feel like almost 4 years passed and you never contacted him. Still, he talked like nothing happened. You sound very sure of that. I am, he said, simply meeting your gaze. You can trust me on that. The words made your heart twist unexpectedly. You wanted to say I used to, but you didn't. You just sighed and reached for your bag. He handed you his helmet. Here, wear this. You frowned. You are the one driving. You should wear it. He shook his head, stepping closer until you could feel his breath, low and warm against the cool night air. I'll be fine. It's important for you to wear it, you argued softly. His eyes softened, a faint smile touching his lips. You are more important. Your breath caught just like that. The air shifted. The world around you seemed to go still. Before you could say anything, he gently placed the helmet over your head, his fingers brushing against your hair, tucking in a stray strand. His touch was careful, almost reverent, and your heart skipped a beat so loud you swore he could hear it. Still the same. He murmured, his voice barely audible. What? You asked, your voice small inside the helmet. Your eyes, they still look like they did the night you left. You froze, words caught in your throat, but before you could respond, he swung a leg over his bike and started the engine. The deep roar of it filled the air, vibrating through the ground. He looked over his shoulder. Get on. And even though every part of you whispered don't, your heart betrayed you. You climbed on behind him, wrapping your arms around his waist, the warmth of him, the steady rise and fall of his breathing. It felt like coming home to something you thought you had lost forever. Hold on tight, he said softly, voice almost lost to the night wind. The bike sped forward, cutting through the darkness, leaving the broken car behind. And as the cold wind brushed your face, one thought echoed in your mind. You weren't sure if fate was cruel or if it was finally giving you one more chance. The ride back home was silent, too silent. The hum of his motorcycle and the cool midnight breeze were the only thing filling the space between you. You couldn't see his face, but you could feel the weight of years, of words left unsaid, hanging between your arms as they clung gently around his waist. When the bike finally slowed and stopped in front of your apartment, you hesitated to let go. The warmth, the scent, the familiarity. It all felt too close, too real. You stepped off slowly, removing the helmet he had made you wear. He looked at you as you did, his lips twitching into a small smile. Thanks for the ride, you murmured, holding the helmet out to him. Anytime, he said softly, taking it but not looking away. His eyes lingered as though memorizing you all over again. You shifted awkwardly, glancing toward your apartment door before blurting, Would you like to come in? For coffee, I mean. He raised an eyebrow, that familiar teasing smirk tugging at his lips. Whoa, I thought you wouldn't ask. You rolled your eyes, ignoring the heat creeping your neck. It's just coffee, Jungkook. Sure, he chuckled. Just coffee. Inside the apartment was dimly lit and neat, too neat, maybe. You moved straight to the kitchen, setting the kettle to boil while he stood near the couch, glancing around. You have really made a life for yourself, he said quietly, his gaze drifting over the tidy shelves, the stack of organized files, the simple decor. Always perfect, I could never keep my place this clean. You smiled faintly, placing the 2 mugs on the counter. That's because I barely come home. Work keeps me busy, it stays clean by default. He hummed in response and took the mug you handed him. You both sat down on the couch like two old ghosts who had forgotten how to exist in the same room. He sipped his coffee before asking carefully, So, have you seen anyone these days? You scoffed lightly. No, I don't have the time or the energy. You looked at him over the rim of your mug. What about you? He leaned back, a faint smile touching his lips. No, and I don't want to. You frowned slightly, setting your cup down. Why not? His voice softened, steady but threaded with something raw. Because there's only been one girl I have ever fallen for. And I don't think I could ever love anyone the way I loved her. Your breath hitched. You tried to look away, but your eyes betrayed you, drawn back to his face, the way his gaze lingered on the untouched coffee in his hands. He chuckled softly, though it didn't reach his eyes. I wish I could have told her back then that what she felt wasn't true, that everything she believed was just a misunderstanding. Silence filled the space again, thick and heavy. You swallowed hard, your fingers tightening around the edge of your mug. Jungkook, you whispered. He looked at you, eyes warm but searching. I'm sorry, you said finally, your voice trembling. His eyebrows lifted slightly, surprised. You don't have to apologize. You shook your head, forcing yourself to meet his gaze. Yes, I do. I didn't stay to fight for the truth. I just gave up. Your voice cracked softly. I was so tired, Jungkook. Everything felt like it was falling apart. Your parents, mine, Abby, everyone twisting things between us. It didn't matter how much I loved you. It just kept hurting. I thought ending it would end the pain too. He didn't speak, but the hurt flickering in his eyes quietly restrained. You looked down, your voice softer now. I knew Abby was a part of it later, that she and our parents planned everything to separate us. I stopped talking to her long ago, but by then it was already too late. He leaned forward, his voice low but intense. Then why, Ryan? Why didn't you come back after you knew? You hesitated, blinking away the sting in your eyes. Because I couldn't face you. I didn't know what I would say, or if you would even want to hear it. I thought you had moved on. You deserved to. He set his mug down quietly and stood, stepping closer. His shadow fell over you and he crouched slightly to meet your eyes. You didn't have to think for a second about what I would say. I loved you then, Ryan. I love you now. And I'll love you tomorrow and the day after that. Until you tell me not to. Your heart clenched painfully, tears finally spilling as he reached up, brushing his thumb gently under your eye. His touch was warm, steady, familiar. You have no idea how long I've waited for this, he said quietly, for you to just look at me again. You laughed softly through the tears. You are making it hard not to cry more. He smiled faintly, his forehead leaning against yours, voice barely a whisper. Then don't stop yourself. For a long moment, neither of you moved. The world outside the apartment ceased to exist. The noise, the past, the heartbreak. It was just him, you, the scent of coffee, the quiet rhythm of breathing that felt like it had been missing from your life for too long. Do you still mean it? You asked finally. That you still love me? He smiled softly, every damn word. You exhaled shakily, your lips parting to reply, but he didn't wait. His hand found the back of your neck, pulling you close, and his lips met yours in a kiss that was both an apology and a promise. It wasn't desperate, it wasn't rushed, it was slow, deep, full of years of ache and longing and unspoken love. When you finally pulled away, breathless, he smiled that familiar smile, the one that always made your heart skip. We lost years we shouldn't have. Let's not lose another minute. You nodded, smiling through the tears. I think I waited long enough. He leaned closer again, his voice a soft whisper against your ear. Welcome back, baby. And as you rested your head against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath your cheek, you realized sometimes fate doesn't bring people back to where they started. It brings them back to where they belong.